Right. Hello and welcome to episode 43 of the ReptiChat podcast, the one-stop shop for all things reptile related straight to your ear holes. As always, a quick bit of housekeeping before we get into today's episode. I'm just going to push some buttons and try and do it all in the same time. First thing is first, Patreon. Patreons, you guys are on screen now. Thank you to each and every one of you. You guys and girls really make making this podcast that bit easier. A quick update on stickers for Patreons. They have been ordered. They're on their way to me, and I will DM you once they've arrived, and we can get them all sent out. Not a Patreon member? Here's a few reasons why you might like to join. 1, there's stickers. Who doesn't love a sticker? 2, there's the Repti Squad Discord, where we are slowly building minded reptile keepers. 3, you get your name on the Patreon slides. Ooh. Number 4, early access to all the Repti vlogs and early access to any pre-recorded podcast episodes. Spoiler alert, straight after this episode, I'm recording episode 44. Finally, number 5, it starts at £1 a month. So there you go. That is 5 reasons why you should consider joining the Patreon. Also, just a quickie, as I have mentioned in previous episodes, I am a Tough Mudder brand ambassador. So if you want to come and have a go at getting covered in mud, head to toe, or whilst clambering over ridiculous obstacles and getting electrocuted, then use the code at the bottom of the screen now and save yourself some pennies. Audio listeners, code is in the show notes below as well. Right, that is that. Moving on, let's have a quick check to see who's in the chat before we introduce the guests. So, who we got? Fiona, Girl Power, nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Gary, nice to see you. Thank you very much again for popping along. Mr. Paul is in there. He's lurking as always. Dan, early gang, nice to see you. Bailey, nice to see you. Thanks for coming along. And that is everyone in the chat at the moment. If you guys are in there lurking, feel free to say hello. I will be dipping in and out of the chat as always. Someone clip Ben out of these shots and put them in other places. I can send you the photos if you want to do it properly. Right, let's get today's guest into the studio. Please welcome Lizards, and Neptune the Chameleon, otherwise known as the Wildtype podcast. Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you both for coming along.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. You're very welcome. So we'll get straight into it. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode, I'd like to start each episode with a little section called the Get to Know section.
Yeah.
It's 9 quick fire questions, this or that, followed by one question that's probably the most important question of the entire podcast.
Ooh.
So if you're happy, we'll get started.
Yeah, totally.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. So, cats or dogs?
Oh,
Dogs.
We're both dog people.
That's what we like to hear. We love a dog. Snakes or lizards?
Lizards.
Snakes.
Oh,
With my username being Lissus Lizards. It is. Yes.
Nice. Frogs or salamanders?
Salamanders.
Centipedes or millipedes?
Ooh, neither.
Nice. I like it. Spiders or scorpions?
Ooh,
Scorpions?
I think scorpions. Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too.
Nice. Yeah, cool. Birds or butterflies?
Butterflies.
Oh, I'm torn, but I think butterflies just because birds can be a little crazy.
Yeah. Grasslands or woodlands?
Ooh, woodlands.
I don't know what that means.
It's just like the type of environment, I think.
Yeah.
Grasslands then.
Yeah. Beach or mountains?
Ooh,
Beach.
both, but I'll go beach.
Nice. A hot climate or a cold climate?
Hot.
Yeah, hot.
Fantastic. And the most important question of the entire podcast, what is your favorite biscuit or cookie?
A soft sugar cookie.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with soft sugar cookie too. Yeah.
Nice.
Really
Yes.
That's the most important question of the entire episode. Everybody is just waiting to hear that and probably will tune out now. So For those of you, for those that don't know, sorry, could you guys introduce yourselves? Give us a history lesson into your reptile keeping careers. Where did it start, and how has it sort of blossomed into what it is today?
Yeah. Do you
wanna
want
go either way?
to? Or should I introduce you and then you introduce me?
I can. Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Okay.
That
This
works a
is
treat.
lizards. You can correct me if I get anything wrong.
Okay.
Her very first reptile was Charlie, her leopard gecko that she got for Christmas when you were 16.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm 31 now,
Oh,
so
look,
a
thumbs
good
up.
15, 16 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was her first reptile, how you got started. And then for your current ones, see if I can list
Oh gosh.
them. Tarzan, the anaconda,
Mhm.
Hazel, the Hog Island boa, Taz, scaleless corn snake. That's all snakes.
Yes.
Right?
All the snakes.
Okay. Then we've got a salamander, Kermit,
Mhm.
Nessie. This is hard. African fat-tailed gecko. Voldy, legless
Yes.
lizard.
Yep.
Poke, gargoyle gecko.
Yep.
I'm working my way through like all your
You're real
enclosures.
close.
Nilla, your
Yes.
skink,
Yes.
blue tongue skink. Who else am I missing?
I think you got them all. Yeah,
Okay.
you got them all.
Ha.
So I have a total
Nice.
of 10 right now. And I kind of my journey started like almost every other reptile keeper's journey. I was a Steve Irwin obsessed kid,
Yeah.
and woke up every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. excited about reptiles, crocodiles, and all the weird creatures in the world. Finally begged my parents to get my leopard gecko when I was 16. And then I had like a weird little like hibernation phase of my reptile keeping where like I only had the one for like 8 years. And then
Right.
after college, I just went a little crazy and got all my pets. And I started posting on social media in 2017. And then I started posting on TikTok in 2021. And then that's kind of what led me to now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I will get into
Yeah.
Neptune the
Let's see if
chameleon.
you can list them.
So she has Neptune the chameleon, who is her Ambelope panther chameleon.
Yep.
He is 5 years old.
Yeah.
So
Almost
he just
6.
turned 5 recently, like in the last.
He'll be 6 in like 2 months.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that flew by.
Yeah.
So her chameleon, her main number one chameleon is almost 6. And
Yeah.
then we've also got my personal favorite of her critters, who is Luna. She is a Christopher's Parsons chameleon.
Yeah.
And then she also has Venus, who is her female Ambelope panther chameleon.
Yep.
And then we also have
One more.
Pluto, your
Yes.
crested gecko.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's true.
So quite a varied selection between you both.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I'll have to ask, because one that particularly stuck out, the anaconda. Yellow, green, male, female.
Yellow and male. So the way I explain it is he is the smallest anaconda you could possibly have as a pet. And that was very, very strategic.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And how old is he at the moment?
He is actually going to be 4. So
so he's pretty well grown then.
ish, I would say he's probably right now, he's probably almost 4 feet. So he's doing pretty well. So I'm excited for him to get bigger, but.
Yeah, definitely. How are you finding him so far? How long have you had him as well?
Honestly, so I got him, he's a 2020 baby, but I got him in January of 2021. So I got him when he was about 3 or 4 months old.
Okay.
And in all honesty, that was such like so crucial.
Big difference.
It made a huge difference getting him super young, because as I'm sure you know, yellow anacondas are known for their like feisty personality and just being very defensive naturally. And he was definitely that. He has bitten me almost on my eye, like right here above my eye.
We first got him. So like we went together, of course. And I was trying to get a picture of like the 2 of them, because I was like, your gotcha day. And then he bit her.
He bit me the first time I ever held him. He bit me, I would say for the first month, he bit me almost every time I handled him. But then after that, he kind of settled down. But now, ever since, because I put in a lot of work in the early days and I handled him every single day for over an hour for over a year. That was like our routine. And I literally have like the most docile yellow anaconda ever. He's incredibly, I mean, I could take him out at any point and he's an angel. So
Yeah. Well, let's be fair, that is what you want. You don't really want a however big snappy anaconda when they're fully grown. So fair play to put in the work in, because a lot of people wouldn't.
Yeah, that was something she and I talked about a lot when, like, before I went into getting him, because I was nervous. I mean, that's a big commitment, and I was worried because I was like, I can't get him to a point where I can trust him, I don't know how long I can have him, because that was just a very realistic situation of looking at it. Like, if I can't get this snake to be a calm, trustworthy snake, I don't know if I can have him for the entirety of his life. So I was really grateful that all the hard work paid off.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's fair enough. And then Neptune, obviously, you've got a pair of chameleons as well as a few. So, have you bred them? Are you planning on breeding them? Is it something in the future?
Trying, not successful so far. My male Neptune is all about it. He's like head bobbing, pursuing her, working his thing. Like, he's all about it. And she's like, you got back to it first. And he's not, she's not having it. So she's currently gravid with an infertile clutch right now. So we're past the breeding window at this point. So I'll let her lay this clutch, give her some time, and then see if we can, have better luck the next round.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think breeding chameleons is something that there's quite a lot of risks involved. So if it goes well, then it's an even better achievement than breeding another species, so to speak. So
I appreciate you saying that, because I don't feel like enough people give that recognition.
Well, we've got one chameleon, and the main reason we chose a male is because I know that the females can have a lot of complications. So going into it, and obviously you're fully aware of the risks as well. So there's so many risk factors, but hopefully the reward will be good for you in the end.
I appreciate it. Yeah, fingers crossed.
We're keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed for you. Right. So
I want to be baby chameleon aunt.
Yeah, definitely. And freshly hatched chameleons are like the cutest little animals as well. So
little nuggets. I love
fingers crossed. So we're gonna get into the main topic of today's episode, the title of the topic. I'll preface it by saying, I don't want to upset anybody, so I'm going to do my best to not come across like a privileged white man, and we'll just have a nice conversation. All right. And if anybody is upset by anything that was said, it was not meant to upset anybody. But I think we'll get stuck in. So the title of today's episode is Women in the Reptile Hobby. In a predominantly male hobby, there seems to be a definite boom of female keepers and female keepers on social media. I think it's great, and I think there's a lot of positives to be had from it. But why do you think seems to be such a sudden influx of female keepers, or specifically on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I think the social media piece of it is huge. Social media has a lot of pros, a lot of cons, but one of the biggest pro is just the awareness. A lot of people get to learn about things they would have never learned about. They get exposure to things they wouldn't have ever learned about. So more and more people are becoming aware of reptile keeping. More and more females are becoming reptile content creators, which is then inspiring a new generation of like, I want to get into that too. So I think having that reach and presence on social media just brings it available to more people to potentially get interested in the hobby.
Yeah. I mean, prime example is for me personally and what, I've experienced in the reptile hobby. I mentioned earlier, I got my first reptile at 16, but I didn't get another one until I was 23. And when I got my next reptile, it was because I had been reintroduced to other reptile species from seeing them on social media. So for me, I saw this woman on social media posting about her panther chameleon, and I was like, what is that? And I got so excited. So I think I totally agree. I think the social media aspect is huge, just more exposure. And I also think naturally, I feel like women are people who lots of guys obviously post on social media as well, but I think women naturally are ones to just want to put things out there on, social media. Like, I don't know any of my girlfriends who don't post on social media, but I know a lot of dudes who will choose not to. So I feel like with that, it's just, girls get excited about what they're doing and the pets they have, and they want to post it. And so therefore it just generates more and more. And I think it just makes it more normalized, because growing up as a kid, as a girl who loved reptiles, I didn't know anybody who loved reptiles. It was not normal. I was constantly told as a kid that reptiles are pets for boys. And so as I got older, I was like, no, it's not. Look at all these women who keep reptiles, you know? So I think the social media aspect of it and just it becoming more normalized and more talked about.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Sorry, I'm just going to turn my heater off. I thought I turned it off earlier. I'm getting hotter and hotter in it by a second because I turned it on twice.
Our room's a little dusty in here too.
Yeah. Let's just check the comments as well and read that comment. So, what's Gary saying?
Yeah, and I didn't mention this part when I was doing my intro to reptile keeping, but I got my first chameleon because I saw one on social media as well. I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Did all my research and then got into it. So we're both prime examples of people who got into the hobby or more seriously into the hobby because of people being able to post about their critters.
Totally.
Yeah. So Gary says, my wife used to keep a 22-foot Burm or retic, although I think 22-foot is more of a younger exaggeration on the size. It's probably more like 12 or 14. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Awesome. More power to your wife. That is a big old snake.
Right, and then Paul says, do you feel women are taken seriously in the hobby and on social media?
I think it varies. Yes and no. I think there's, especially like now in 2024, I think more so than even like 5 years ago. I definitely think we're taken more seriously. But of course, there's always bad eggs out there who, don't respect them. And that's, to each their own. But
any negative comments I've gotten have not been because I'm a girl. Like it has nothing to do with like that piece of it. I would say like 99.9% of at least my experiences have been overwhelmingly positive and supportive. But I think also what you put out there is kind of what you receive. So like I make sure all the content that I'm posting is positive and inclusive and like supportive of new keepers. And I feel like the community that you're able to build around your brand and your content is then reflective on you.
I completely agree with that sentiment. I mean, I think if, you're putting content out there that, shows that people are welcome and included in the space and all of that, then you're more likely to get positive feedback. And I would say I'm the same, like aside from the occasional weird DMs from creepy dudes, it's usually overwhelmingly positive.
That I would say is the biggest thing about being a female is the inappropriate comments and messages that you get by putting yourself on the internet. But as far as being supported in the hobby, I do feel supported, but I'm also not like pointing fingers and being like, hey, use
we're not really ones to, we keep to our corner. We keep to our corner of the internet. We keep it happy and positive and good and things, are usually pretty good.
Just keep the DMs clean. That's all I ask.
Yes, same. But I will say, we go to a lot of expos here in the States, and we've been to Animal Con last year and things like that. And in my experience, and I'm sure yours was too, was overwhelmingly positive from everyone in the community that we interacted with. I mean, I didn't have one bad experience. So.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And talking of content, now, this is a topic or a question that I wasn't sure if I was going to ask or not, but I'm going to ask it, and don't take any offense to it, because obviously it's not aimed at you two personally. But I have to say, there are a lot of female content creators out there, not all of them, and there's a lot that don't fit under this umbrella, that I don't tend to consume their content because I'm a happily married man. I see a lot of female content creators sexualizing themselves a bit to gain views. And I mean, I understand that if you post a video with just a snake and it gets 300 views, then you post a similar video showing a little bit of skin, it gets 300,000 views. You're going to do what gets more views if you're building your social media. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think it takes away anything from what female keepers like yourselves are trying to promote?
We might have slightly different opinions on this. I don't know. But for me personally, I don't think so. I am a full supporter of women doing whatever the heck they want on social media. And if you're somebody that's comfortable doing that, and if that is something that you want to do, and if that is, a part of your business on social media, more power to you. And the way I view it is, it's more of a personal choice than anything. And I think the assumption that it is for views, or the assumption that it is only for views instead of just being, proud of your body or doing things like that, I think the assumption that it's only for views is more harmful than the actual act itself, in my opinion.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I have a slightly different
viewpoint.
I do want to call out, this is not unique to the reptile hobby. This is women
in general
for forever, right? Like
I have to agree. So I ran this question by my mum earlier because she also podcasts and she is quite big on social media doing her own thing. And she said it's not a reptile thing. She's a yoga teacher, and she said it's the same in the yoga world.
Yeah, this is not unique to reptile keeping, but yeah, we definitely see that. And not gonna lie, there's been times where I'm like, man, if I made my videos if I was wearing a bikini, like I could quit my day job, right? Like I am not naive to the fact. However, even on my personal Instagram, I have a golden rule that if I wouldn't feel comfortable with my grandma seeing this, I don't post it. That's my
that's quite a good rule, to be fair. I like that.
Yeah, that's me personally.
And I would say that's also me personally as well. My answer was more like in the grand scheme of things, my opinion on it. But for me personally, literally my grandmother and my great aunt follow all of my stuff and respond to every single thing. I could never. They would freak out.
I think your original question though was like, do we think this hurts other women in the hobby? I don't necessarily think it's how people are presenting themselves, but how people are consuming the content, because I've been wearing a turtleneck sweater and I still will get, inappropriate comments. Like I am like covered up as much as I, possibly can. And if someone's going to take it the wrong way or make it creepy, they'll find any way to make it creepy, regardless of what you're doing. So I think you just have to be mindful of like how you're presenting yourself as a brand. And I think as long as it's done in a positive way, then that's going to be helpful for the community.
Yeah. And I think something you just said is a really interesting perspective as well of how you want to present yourself as a brand. Like we both are very specific about the type of content that we want to put out, both on our separate channels and then also as our podcast. Like I have always viewed Lissus Lizards and my platform as my reptile keeping brand. And we view the podcast in a similar way. We look at, what is what is the purpose of the brand? What is, what kind of content do we want to be putting out? Things like that. And a lot of people who, might put out that kind of content might not be thinking of it as a brand. They might just be thinking of it as like, this is me, this is who I am. And I think that's a totally
place of self-expression,
different perspective. So I think it has a lot to do with how you view your content and what you want to be putting out.
I also have a day job, so I have to be mindful of like what I put on the internet. But I would love to know your thoughts, right? From like a consumer, someone, and you made the comment of like, you're a married guy, so you try to like, so do you think that's harmful or hurtful or beneficial, or like, would love to hear your thoughts?
Like it's difficult to be fair. Like if it pops up, I'm not like, oh my god, I have to shield my eyes. But I don't actively follow certain accounts because I know that I'm going to see more of that. When really, like your accounts, I know that I'm going to see reptiles. And if I'm logged into my ReptiChat account for the podcast, then I'm looking for reptiles. I'm not interested in seeing anything else. If I want to go and consume that, there's plenty of other places that I can go and do it. I don't think it's a necessity.
Yeah, because there's definitely been times where I'm on my chameleon page and but I see in the chat, right? People are saying if they were a guy and they were ripped, they would take advantage. Like it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Like, and you have guys who are like shirtless and whatever, or they'll do like live streams shirtless, and then they'll get like all these views. I'm like, if like we can't. I mean, we could do that, but we can't do that. You know? Like, you know. So it. But to your point, like I didn't choose to like want to see that, I guess. So like, but if that's your brand and that's how you're presenting yourself and you choose to follow that person, then like.
But this also could all be solved if specifically Instagram just went back to chronological order and only the people that we followed in our feed.
Oh yeah, versus populating accounts that you don't
because the only reason we get served some stuff is because of the algorithms. So
no, definitely. No, I think honestly that was a perfect answer, and a few people said the same thing. Like Paul said, they're a great answer.
I know, like that's like a little bit of a nerve-wracking.
It is a hard question to ask. I was like, I don't know, but I'm glad it's not just you guys. Also, the guys out there are saying they get creepy DMs from guys as well.
Yeah, so we're not alone.
Everyone's nobody. I'm not going to get any creepy DMs. If anyone wants to send me some creepy DMs, you know where to go.
Right.
Fantastic. So let's move on to something a bit lighter, I suppose. So like I said, there's a huge amount of positives within the growth of numbers with women keepers. And one of the main positives I can see is women as a whole seem to be promoting better husbandry a lot more than other keepers. Like I know there's a lot of, like you said at the beginning, there's a lot of male keepers that do push great things.
Totally.
We're just focusing on the women in this episode. But why do you think that there seems to be such a good push from women keepers specifically about bettering your husbandry practices?
Yeah, I think the educational piece of it is huge. Like, you don't know what you don't know. If we just look at stereotypes, right, which is really what a lot of this is. Let's just take like applying for jobs, for example. We've all heard the stereotype that guys will apply for jobs that they're underqualified for, but then women won't apply for jobs unless they meet all the qualifications. Even if you're missing one, then you're hesitant and reserved to even apply for that. Now, that is a vast stereotype, and there's plenty of women who will apply for what you just put the little asterisk on there. Now, you take that personality trait that we see in women, and you're about to tackle a new hobby. Guys have a tendency, again, generalizations, to just like jump right in. I'll figure it out as I go along. Yeah. Women typically are planners and like to have a game plan and have all the information, make an educated decision, then jump into it. So I think, and you know, we're slightly different personalities. I'm a big planner. You're more of a spontaneous type of person. But that's a characteristic that we see with a lot of women is
I think a really, like, the word that's coming to my mind is that women are more calculated, which can that word can have a very negative connotation. But in my opinion, when that word's popping into my head, I'm thinking of it with a very positive connotation of, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to calculate in my head everything that this animal could need. And is that the right thing? I'm going to triple check all my sources, and I'm going to methodically go through and make sure that I'm, you know, doing everything right. And occasionally I'm impulsive, that's for sure. But, you know, I'm going to check off all the boxes. And I also think women, again, stereotypes, you know, there are women who are this way, there are women who are not this way, there are women who are in the middle. But I think women as a whole have a little bit more of a nurturing, just natural, instinctual thing. You know, we're just naturally nurturers. And so when we're taking in an animal, we want to nurture it. We want to, you know, overly care for it. We want to, you know, think through what all could it possibly need? What does it have in the wild that it doesn't have in this enclosure? How can I add that? How can I enrich its life? How can I make it better? How can I give this small thing that relies on me for care? You know, it's so I think part of it is just the nature of women. We're caretakers. We want to help take care of things. We want to nurture them. And again, obviously not all women and obviously not all men, but I just think that's a small part of it, just in how a lot of women normally, you know, our process of how we go about things, I feel like is slightly different.
And not unique to women, but the entire hobby has really grown. Like, we have more care resources available to us. Every single reptile company is carrying bioactive supplies. That wasn't the case years ago. Like, now access to information is huge. We have tons and tons of content creators who are specializing just in a particular species, where you can go and learn just on that. Versus, say, 5-10 years ago, we were in the pet tuber days where people had 50 plus animals, and that was like quantity over quality. Now we're seeing a shift in the hobby, not unique to women. This is in males too, right? But we're seeing more emphasis on quality versus quantity. So I think that's also kind of helped it.
Yeah, definitely. Another question in the chat. What gives someone the right to be able to educate on social media, as even just posting with a following leads by example, regardless of the care given by that creator?
This is the power of the internet.
That is an interesting question. I mean,
it's a good question.
We've talked about this on our podcast, how follower count does not mean you know what you're talking about. And we've seen it all the time. The videos of improper care that get millions of views, right? But then you'll make a stitch or a video responding to that, taking the time to explain, hey, here's why this isn't recommended. Here's what I would suggest instead. And then it gets like 2 views. And
right. My thoughts are more that, I mean, technically, according to, you know, the freedom of the internet and the freedom of free speech and things like that. Everybody has the right to educate on anything that they want to in the public forum that is the internet. But I think it is a little bit of responsibility on the viewer to do their due diligence to see if this is somebody that they want to learn from, because there are people you should learn from and there are people you should probably not learn from. And I think a lot of it, though, has to do with experience, but also acknowledgement that even though I'm out there putting, somewhat educational information out there on the internet, I say in as many videos as I possibly can, I am still learning. I don't know everything. I correct myself if I, am proven wrong about things. And I think as a viewer, that's something really important to pay attention to with content creators.
But with your follow, right?
Yeah,
if you're following and supporting accounts that aren't putting out great care information, people only post stuff if they're not doing it for true education, if they're doing it for views, then they're just posting for the views. If you're giving them the follower, the views, or even the engagement, if you hate comments, whatever, like you're feeding into that. So, or if you're seeing something, there's a gap, go make content yourself, right? And you can help educate and support, the hobby.
I just think it sometimes the creators can speak for themselves on, like, if they're not willing to admit that they got something wrong, or if they're not willing to course correct, or they're not willing to learn anything new, I think that says a lot about whether or not you should listen to them.
I think that's spot on. Definitely.
Yeah.
That was a good question in the comments. Thank you very much. So what do you think this is going to be? It's a bit rogue, and I've got sort of notes, but they don't make sense. So we'll go with it. It doesn't flow very well, but it's fine. What do you think the best thing about being a female in the reptile hobby is? Do you think it's any different from being man? Do you think there's anything going on differently, or what's your favorite thing about it? What's the best thing?
For me, it's just the fact that when I was 12, 13 years old, obsessed with reptiles, I didn't know a single person out there who, besides Steve Irwin, who cared about reptiles. And I think my favorite part of being a female reptile keeper is knowing that there are potentially 12 and 13-year-old girls out there looking at my content and wanting to do that in the future and wanting to keep reptiles because they see somebody who's doing it. And I didn't have that. Yeah. So that is probably my favorite part. Like that's just really, it just warms my heart, and it just makes me happy to know that like I can be that for people when I wasn't able to have that by myself. So
yeah, my answer was going to be our friendship.
That too.
Like as cheesy as that is, and this is why we made the podcast. I'm sure you have questions lined up for like podcast specific.
Yeah. We'll touch on the
have a girlfriend who you can just like shoot the breeze with and just like talk about, just like, oh my gosh, look at this new species, or like, hey, I'm thinking about this enclosure bill. But like guys have that too, right? Like you just chat with like your guy friends, or you go to an expo, or you like DM someone that has like a cool species and you get to chatting. Like we met through social media, like we met through Instagram, and like now we're like best friends in real life. Yeah. Like I was at her wedding, she'll be at my future wedding. Like that's just, to have that with a person, again, it's not unique to reptiles, but when we're in such a niche hobby, and then you're a minority within a niche hobby, to like have someone that you can just do that with, and for us to try and build that community through our podcast, that's the dream right there. Because we all have friends outside of our hobby, right? We all have friends who are like, oh yeah, I have my friend, he keeps snakes, and you're like, yeah,
our real like, world friends.
Yeah.
Or you're like, I get introduced as like the girl who has iguanas. I don't have iguanas. It's just my friends don't know that the difference between a chameleon and an iguana. That's fine, but like they don't get it, and I love them to pieces, and they're so supportive and understanding. But to have someone who truly gets it, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, prime example, I was at a wedding a week or two ago with and all the people at the wedding were either high school friends, college friends, or post-college friends. So I knew everybody at this wedding, and the amount of friends who came up to me and were like, "You're the girl with the reptile podcast, right? You're the one with the anaconda. I've heard about you." And I'm like, This is so crazy. So it's funny, having those real world friends, but then having because those people just don't quite get it the way
Yeah.
that we do. And as girls, female friendship is so
We like to chat.
so important. And so it's, that's easily one of my favorite parts too.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. I like that. And yeah, like you say, it is lovely to have reptile specific friends as well. Like I've got friends and I can talk to them all day and they haven't got a clue if we're talking about reptiles.
Right.
But then you meet certain people and then like all of a sudden, like you say, you're best friends. Like me and Paul, like he doesn't like to admit it, but we're best friends now, even if he won't accept that. And if I just keep chiseling away, eventually he will cave. But yeah, there's like, all jokes aside, there's loads of us and lots of friends that I've made, especially recently since moving away from ball pythons and moving into like monitors and stuff. There's definitely such a sense of community, and it's so nice to be able to go, oh my god, like I was at the shop earlier, I saw this, it's so cool, and then have like a conversation for an hour. And so, and especially for you guys, as I say, you're now best friends. There's extra bonus.
Totally.
Cool. So let's move away from the main topic. I think we covered that enough for today.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could go back and forth, but I think we'll just end up having the same conversation a few times. So it's been mentioned a couple of times, and obviously it's the title of the podcast as well, is your podcast. So let's hear about it. How long have you been podcasting? How's it going? And what's it all about?
Yeah, we launched December 1st of last year. So is that December?
I think we're at 6 months almost.
Yeah, so we're a 6-month-old podcast. We're the only reptile podcast hosted by 2 ladies, which is kind of like our thing. So all of our branding, as you can see, is like pink and purple. I like to say we're like call her dad like get a loose wad, but like reptile edition, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely more of a lifestyle podcast with a heavy emphasis on reptiles versus a lot of other reptile podcasts do a great job of doing interviews or educating or emphasis on breeding. I think those have so much value in the community, but there hasn't really been one just for more lifestyle stuff, specifically targeted for female keepers. So our demographic is about 80% females and then 20% guys. So we do have a good chunk of guy listeners too, which is great. And they always let us know. They're like, we're here too. Yeah. We're like, hi. So I think our ultimate goal was to create somewhat of a safe and inclusive space specifically for women reptile keepers to feel like they had, friends to connect to. Because while, the comment of like, what is this thing, friends, is very funny because I know it's a joke, but at the same time, there are a lot of people in the reptile community, in the reptile hobby who, aren't necessarily isolated content creators and they don't have any friends near them who, have reptiles. And so I feel like those people feel isolated and they feel like they don't have community, and we wanted to help create that space for people. So that's why we're not super heavy with like interviews and things like that, because I think the ultimate like goal and like feel of the podcast is we wanted it to be a place for reptile keepers and female reptile keepers to almost have like a weekly coffee chat with their reptile keeping friends.
That's exactly what it's like. I've listened to quite a few of your episodes now, and it is literally like, it's like you two are having a chat in a coffee shop and I'm sat next to you, earwigging the whole conversation, and I really enjoy that. Yeah,
that was kind of the main goal that we wanted to achieve, is just create that space for people to be able to, come listen, chat, and hopefully make friends with our other listeners,
Yeah, definitely. Like Gary says here, he doesn't really hang around too much with people around here, but he's got friends all far away, like part of the fellowship, which the fellowship is Paul's Discord. And it's quite a large group of friends, and we're all like-minded, supportive, and
I love that. That's so cool.
It is good. We've got a nice little community going on over there, and it's nice that you guys can offer something that is more targeted at women, because obviously there isn't a lot. I don't think I can name any other podcasts off the top of my head that are hosted by women around reptiles, to be honest, let alone by 2 women.
Right.
So you've definitely got the demographic nailed down there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all right. So how are you finding the podcast? Are you enjoying doing it? Are you not too stressful?
I get so excited when it's filming day. Yeah. So I live like 10 minutes down the street. So we're like very close to each other. And I will always like listen to music. I'm like, it's podcast day, it's podcast day. And we have so much fun brainstorming different topics and ideas and getting Q&As from our audience. Like the filming of it has been so much fun. I will say editing is like not my favorite part.
Not as fun.
That's why you've got it good here with the live stream, because then you don't have to do
I don't edit anything.
Yeah.
That aspect is very nice.
Yeah. And we have so much fun with like the social clips. I think we have so much passion in this, and we know this podcast has so much potential, and then it's a baby podcast right now. So it's been really cool to hit new milestones. Like when we hit our first 500 subscribers, we're not that far away from 1,000 subscribers. Like it's been a lot of fun to just like really see the growth in the community, and I think it's going well.
I think so too. I'm the same way. I love the days that we get to film. It's so fun. It's also just an excuse to get to hang out, which is always great. But the filming aspect of it is fun. It's fun putting the content out there and seeing the response and building that community. So it's definitely a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of work on both ends, but it's been very rewarding and really just fun. And I mean, it's allowed us to like connect with some of our audience even like more, because a lot of obviously our listeners were followers of either one of us or both of us before the podcast. And so it's allowed us to almost, get a little bit more of a connection with people who follow us, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And where are you hoping? Is the podcast just going to naturally evolve? Have you got targets to hit by the end of the year, so to speak, or are you just going to see where it goes?
We have targets, for sure. We would love to be at that point where we can monetize the channel. So 1,000 subs on
that would be lovely
on YouTube. Yeah. We're at 20,000 total listens across the podcast right now. So like that's pretty exciting. I think when we can hit like 50,000, 100,000, like we want this to be as big as it can possibly be and build that community and help other reptile keepers like just find a place where.
And also, I mean, one of my favorite parts, this is a little bit of a tangent from the actual question, but one of my favorite parts is we were at an expo a few weeks ago, and we met at least 2 or 3 of our listeners who don't even keep reptiles yet.
Yeah.
They're just interested.
Yeah.
And that to me is one of like the ultimate goals, is bringing in more new reptile keepers who are interested and giving them good resources and good information and a good community right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I think for me, like that's just a really big goal, is I want to help.
That's harder to track, people. But yes, that would be.
It's not something we track, but it is something that I just have very close to my heart.
Well, that's incredible as well, because normally it never works that way. Normally people will buy a reptile first and then generally do the research afterwards and then stumble across podcasts and things like that. So to have listeners that haven't even got reptiles yet and are already listening and taking your advice is incredible.
Yeah. What are some milestones for you?
So actually, that's a very good point. I'm 5 subscribers away from 500 subscribers. So please, if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button.
Yes.
Because then I've got to get my watch hours up, but then I can do super chats and all that sort of stuff. So that's good. But yeah, I don't know really. So far I've not missed an episode, touch wood. Like I have been consistent for 18 months now. So consistency is the main thing that I'm like really proud of and I want to keep at. Viewers, I'm not too fussed because it's gradually growing. I don't really have like a set goal, but if it keeps growing, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, to be able to monetize it would be nice. Like even if just super chats, because then it takes a little bit of, like pressure off.
Yeah, totally.
But I've just moved that audio hosting. I was hosting through Buzzsprout. I've just moved it all over to Spotify. So my analytics have gone, and it's all a bit weird. But it's all good fun. I enjoy doing it. To be fair, I would be quite happy if I made no money and just enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I've just hit 500 subs. So thank you very much. I can't see it because I'm on StreamYard, but I'll take your word for it. Thank you so much, Gary. I appreciate you. Woohoo! Yeah. I need fireworks. I haven't got any fireworks on there. But yeah, thank you all for subscribing. Cool. Right. How are we doing for time? Let me have a look. We are good. So I'm going to start wrapping up because we are almost at that hour mark.
That's it.
I've lost myself. Where am I? Blah, 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 blah. Right. So I like to finish the podcast. I have a wrap up question, and I changed the wrap up question in the beginning of the new year because I was like, new year, new question. I decided after 4 months, I don't like the question anymore. I'm changing it. So you guys get the brand new wrap up question for today. So the wrap up question to you both, you can answer however you want. If money, space, time, and legality were no issues at all, what animal would you like to keep and why? Not specifically reptiles, animals as a whole.
That okay. I had the reptile answer. Now I'm okay. Am I allowed to give a reptile answer and like an animal answer? Like
Yeah, of course you can. Why not? It's the new question. Answer it however you like.
So I would say for the reptile answer, and this will never change, this will be the same forever, it's a Komodo dragon. I mean, I have loved Komodo dragons forever. It would either be a Komodo dragon or a tuatara lizard, and those are only available in New Zealand, and you can't even have them as pets there, so very rare. But my animal answer, I'm a big marine mammal person. I love marine mammals, and if I could have a beluga whale in like if I could make it work to where like I had like a section of the like a bay or something, and that was like my pet whale, I would.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would be so cool.
Is the whale in Finding Dory the one that goes? Woo? Is
No,
that a beluga?
I'm gonna clip that little bit.
Wait. No, Finding Dory.
Yes, I said Finding Dory.
That's my bad. I thought you meant Finding Nemo. That is definitely a beluga.
The white one.
Yes,
that has
that's a beluga.
Yeah, with the big bulbous bit.
Yes.
Paul says we have tuatara in zoos in the UK. I didn't know that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wait, that's incredible.
And Riddler is not listening at the moment because he said he was popping out, but he absolutely loves a tuatara. So when he listens back to this bit, he is going to be very proud that it's been mentioned.
The one that popped into my head was a giraffe. Like to own, to have a giraffe. And you said space time, research.
Yeah, space time. It's all you've got everything that you need.
But like to have a giraffe would be so cool, and I would want like a 6 foot tall house, so then I could just like feed the giraffe from the window.
You wake up in the morning and its head's at the window.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Exactly. Or have like go-go gadget boots where I can just like, be like super tall and then like can like feed my.
I love that.
Feed my giraffe. I don't know. That's what popped into my head.
No, that's brilliant. I'll tell you what. Do you want to do a reptile as well? I'm going to do that from now on. An animal, like an animal as a whole, and a reptile. I like that.
A reptile. I've set on giraffe. I didn't.
I know.
Just throw the curveball in there.
Or a reptile. I don't know. Like I really do love chameleons, as like cheesy as that is. If like time, money, whatever, I would just want one like killer enclosure that was just like a freaking jungle, just like in your room. Yes. That just like, and you could have music playing that's like, crickets chirping and birds and
if it's big enough, you could probably have a couple of crickets chirping and maybe a bird or two.
But and I want it like tricked out, like having like sunset lights and fog and mister and like I like the whole shebang, and just do like some super slick giant Parsons chameleon or like a Meller's chameleon and just like make it absolutely insane where you're just like walking like.
That's the goal.
The Rainforest Cafe. I don't know if they have those in the UK. Probably not. But Rainforest Cafe where they've got like all the jungle vibes, and you're like eating dinner, and you're like supposed to be like in a rainforest like that. That's what I want.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be really cool. I like that. So 2 very different answers there, but equally as good. The people in the comments are liking the answers as well. So there we go. That is all we've got time for today. Thank you both so much for coming on. I really, really enjoyed this. Before you guys go, where can people find you?
All right. So I'm over anywhere on any platform as Lyssa's Lizards, and that is LYSSAS Lizards. And then obviously the Wildtype podcast, also on all platforms. Yeah, and then you can follow me, Neptune the Chameleon, all socials, NeptuneTheChameleon.com. And the podcast is on TikTok, YouTube. Drop us a couple subs if you can, so we can,
we're way up there. But yeah, and we post new episodes every Tuesday. So we have one coming out very, very soon. And
we also have Patreon and then also early access Spotify listeners subscriptions as well.
And merch.
Yeah.
I have to say, I really like the merch. I noticed it when you first came on. It is really nice. I need to pull my finger out and get some merch done.
It's been fun.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to say goodbye. Please don't actually leave. I will have a quick catch up just once the episode is finished. But I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And I will speak to you very soon.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Cheers. Well, there we go. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. I really, really enjoyed this. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, go and check out my Instagram or my Facebook. Just search ReptiChat and I'm sure it will pop up. As I mentioned at the top of the show, there is a Patreon available. It opens you up to a private Discord where you get early access to extra content, pre-recorded episodes, and it starts at as little as £1 a month. There's even a 7-day free trial. So that's that. I've been your host, Ben McIntyre. This has been a ReptiChat podcast. I will see you next Saturday for a ReptiChat vlog. Until then, goodbye.